I think we're pretty much at a similar point, a lot of people, and something that's been in the air and a lot of artists have been talking about, which is pretty much controversial at the moment, which is AI. What do you think? What are your thoughts about it?
With AI, it's not going anywhere. It's not going away. So I don't think it's going to replace art. I don't think things have changed that much since I first started with art, in terms of getting accepted. But most of the time, art is a very slow moving machine. I actually get kind of bored with social media. Like I get on it, and then I scroll a little bit and then I'm sort of looking for something that's going to spark an idea. It's important to have an inner critic so that you're always trying to better yourself, but that inner critic can get so bad and so strong that it ruins everything else.
I know that you started your career with illustration and then you moved into fine arts and dedicated more of your time into it. How was that?
Well, that shift happened because technology actually was taking illustration work away from the artists who were doing it because of Photoshop and in-house publishing and production and stuff. So I was a freelancer, and at some point, I remember it was in 2004. I decided I wanted to focus mostly on fine arts instead because I was doing both at the same time, and it was just so much work and it was taking too much energy from me and whatnot. So I decided I wanted to focus on fine art. And then it was like at the exact same time that I made that decision, all the contracts kind of stopped. Like it's like I commanded or like conjured this reality for myself. But it also coincided with a total drop in illustration as an industry generally. But recently, I did work on something for the last 6 months, I guess, or 7 months. I did a huge illustration project working with a trading card game publisher. The images, yeah, I'm not allowed publishing the images, which is why I've been reposting imagery.
It's fun. You've been sharing a lot of throwback, and it was, I mean, I am really enjoying that actually.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to sort of consolidate it so it looks more like a portfolio because sometimes I feel like I put, in progress photos and then when I go to show my work to someone, I'm like, wait a minute, trying to scroll through all the irrelevant imagery and I'm looking for something specific. So I'm trying to group it and maybe along like thematically also.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
I'm kind of tired. I got up early. But I'll get my day started slowly. And like I said, it was kind of difficult. Well, like I feel like I'm in this difficult phase because I'm trying to come up with new imagery. I am
Yeah.
working on a small little piece that I started last night. I'm just waiting for the base to dry and then I'll
Okay.
continue on it because I'm supposed to have a show, two-person show in Montreal
Oh,
in
wow.
May. So I have to,
That's
yeah, produce as
amazing.
much work as I can for May. But I
Love
still have
that.
to do this tarot card illustration image that I was mentioning.
Yeah.
It is of the Hanged Man, and the
Oh my
Hanged
God.
Man is not. Yeah, it's not. I find it's not an easy image to depict. Like I'm not really sure
Yes.
what to do, so I'm brainstorming a bit. I should probably just sit down and start sketching or drawing or whatever, and then that will like one thing I like to
Get in the
do.
flow.
Yeah, get in the flow, exactly. But I find walking is really beneficial, to
Wow.
getting ideas. Oh, yeah, it's
Really?
huge, and it's good for if you're a writer, if you're like a mathematician, if you're a musician, walking is one of the best ways of getting ideas because you just do
Yeah.
something automatic, and then the right side of your brain, gets to fire up, while the left side of the brain just falls asleep because you're doing something, like, just automatically, like,
Oh,
moving your
wow.
foot one foot after the other.
That's news. Like I've never seen it that way or specifically like scientifically. But yeah, I think if I go for a walk and if I don't take my AirPods or not listening to music or something, I always come up with like free fresh thoughts. It feels good.
Yeah, it feels really good, exactly. Sometimes I do listen to music while I'm walking, but I like ambient music, like
Yeah.
electronica, stuff like that. So
I love that.
anyway,
Okay, we just spoke about, you just said you have a love and hate relationship with technology. You also mentioned your
yeah.
journey from illustration and how that has happened. So I'm going to get straight to a question that's been on my mind since we've scheduled this interview, and I wanted to ask you, which is,
Okay.
I think we're pretty much at a similar point, a lot of people, and something that's been in the air and a lot of artists have been talking about, which is pretty much controversial at the moment, which is AI, which is
Yeah.
a lot of more advanced form of art that's happening, a lot of technology intervention, and it's bringing a huge shift into the industry. What do you think? What are your thoughts about it?
I tried something over the weekend as an experiment with a friend of mine who has a few AI programs, and I said, "Let me try and imitate a painting of mine and see what comes up." So I entered in some keywords, and then he said I had to also provide an image. So I provided an image, I entered some keywords, and I posted this on Facebook, not on Instagram because I'm trying to reserve Instagram as a portfolio instead. But it looked like just a pattern like that came out, and then we tried to get a little more precise with it, and then it just sort of looked like a bunch of bodies. It looked nothing like my work, and then I was kind of happy about that because I thought hopefully what I do will not be easily repeatable by AI. And I don't wanna, like, enter too many images in, even though
Yeah,
somebody like, anybody could enter my images in, and then it'll
yeah,
be part of the database. But ultimately, I think with AI, it's not going anywhere, it's not going away, and it's a
yes,
bit like, the arrival of Photoshop. So Photoshop is a tool that I use actually to produce my work, and it's a super useful tool, but it doesn't replace the artist, and I think with
yes,
AI art, it's more like what you're getting from it is, on the level of a craft and less art, like the soul and the technique, the mastery, technical mastery, and then even the conception and the brilliance that artists um, bring out in their work is just sort of being. It's not that it's even being replicated. It's like some facsimile is being produced on the side. So I don't think it's gonna replace art. I don't think it can replace art. I think it's kind of an interesting it's gonna maybe become more of a tool that artists will go to. Like, when I looked at the pattern that came up, I thought, well, that could be like an interesting pattern to repeat, although it's like I wouldn't do it,
yeah,
but like I could sort of maybe simplify my images or something and then see what comes up and get like more of an abstract kind of
yeah,
version of what I do. But I know that like I haven't looked into it too much, but I've seen a lot of anger, like frustration and anger from artists like on Facebook, friends of
yes,
mine, yeah, that are really reacting to it and that are really really against it. But like I mean, it's been up and coming. I mean, this my work has kind of addressed that also,
yeah,
like just
yeah,
the general concept of what I do. I've been painting robots for like the last
yes,
years or 40 years even, and they're like I'm like, "These are not going away," and then what my work kinda developed into was, an integration or, of, this mechanism and technology with our humanity that is now merging together, and then, the question is which one remains your humanity and how much of you is part of technology, and
technology.
yeah, like our humanness is never changing. Like, we always go to war. We always like feel love. We might feel hope. We might feel regret. We might
Yeah,
feel any of these things that I incorporate into some of the paintings that I do. But we technology still moves on and evolves.
right.
So we're just merged in, combined like a salad, just mixed in with all of this. AI is just another part of this, like, it's just moving forward, and this is, like,
Yeah.
evidence of
Yeah, and I think if technology is going to keep coming and we are going to get advanced, and um, I think of course, there are a lot of concerns on how many restrictions, and how it shouldn't be exploiting other resources and permissions and all of that, but also like it could be a great tool for artists ourselves, like how it could save us a lot of time and help us as a tool to explore more, as a tool to conceptualize, um, and I think at the end of the day, there's still a lot of people who don't want to use it, and that's okay. And a lot of people are using it. And I remember this account I saw on Instagram. I can't recall the name. And so this account really started with the inception of AI, and so it's an anonymous account. It's surrealist something. We also reached that person for the podcast, but since they're anonymous, they didn't. Basically refused. And since the AI thing, so he or she, I'd say they started sharing AI created artworks, and it is some of them are most of them are actually mind blowing, because how complex thoughts they have converted into visuals, and they keep reframing that these are not their rights, only the thoughts that they have, the original image is not there. But it also has shown that the power, like how if you have, like you said, it's a craft. Like if you the idea is not how those images are being produced, but how well you're giving an instruction and how creatively are you thinking.
There's like a missing link, right? So, like, I come up with ideas, I brainstorm almost in the same way that you
Yes.
do with an AI program. Like, I think of very random, scattered subjects, and then I bring them all together, but so
Yes.
that it makes sense. So, and then I'll try and encompass it in a larger framework, like a larger sort of subject, or context or whatever. And then I also draw it out. Like I have the
Yeah.
physical skill, like the, technical mastery to do this, and then I'll paint it and everything. So these are all aspects that are missing from AI. And then it's like
Yeah.
a cheat. It's almost like but people used to say this about photography, I think, when photography
Yeah.
first
It
came out, and
happened.
they were like, "Oh no, it's going to ruin artwork, and it's going to, take so much away from the artists." But it's just sort of considered a separate discipline, and I don't think art suffered for it. I
Yeah.
think it
And
was
it,
it's just a
it also
tool.
supported, like it advanced rather.
Yeah, it's used as a tool. So I think what's going to happen is, like they say, ideas are built on the shoulders of other ideas.
Yeah.
So I think that ultimately art you might see, more interesting work. You maybe with AI, I don't know if AI focuses more on surrealism or something. Like when you were saying that the name, did you say the
Yeah,
name
it
of that?
does. Surrealist
Yeah, it might
something.
be
I
sort of
am.
like like it produces very fantastical imagery. So who knows? Maybe it will popularize surrealism a little bit more. I have no idea what's going to happen with it. Like we have absolutely no idea. It's a double edged sword, right? Like technology is always a double edged sword in every way.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your practice now. Something because of your throwback recently, something that I really wanted to speak to you about, especially as you've been around for a very long time, 1970s, right? How many years has it been for you?
I was born in 1970,
Yes.
and I started drawing when I was around 2 years old, and then I
Oh,
started
wow.
painting when I was 8. So I have, like, my mom kept all of our work. Some of the pieces I lost. I don't know how, I guess, because like, we kept them, and I would take them out and look at them and go, "Wow." And then somehow they just got lost in the shuffle, but I have a lot of the works that I did when I was a little kid still.
Wow.
And then yeah, which is really good. Like for anyone who has kids, I suggest they keep their artwork or a good selection of their artwork so they can look at it when they're like 30 or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they're going, "Wow, that's what I was doing when I was 4." years old. Um, anyway, and then I started I took art lessons at a little local art school near where I lived, and it was this cool, super amazing, it's called La Palette Art School, and, like, all kinds of kids would go there, and, my art teacher, by the time I was, like, in my teens, I went there for 10 years, so by the time I
Wow.
was, like, yeah, when I was around 15, I did a little mechanical frog, and my art teacher thought it was really cool, and all the students thought it was cool, and I thought it was really cool, and then I did, like, a mechanical skeleton riding a unicycle, and then I did, like, a mechanical monkey made out of parts that I found all over the studio, and Lego pieces and paintbrush pieces and, all kinds of things, and then my art teacher just let me do this. So she would give assignments to the class, like to paint mushrooms, watercolor depiction of a mushroom. And I would want to paint a robot. And she didn't stop me from doing it.
Wow.
So, like, a lot of art schools will
Yes.
force you to do what they want you to do. And because she didn't stop me, it was really encouraging. So I kept painting these robots, mechanical images with like no background, just a white background. And I did these in watercolor with like a pen, like a little thin black pen line all around the image. And and then eventually I left the school when I was 18. And then I started doing a little bit of work in my house that I was living in. I was living with my dad at the time. Um, and so I did a few images and then I moved out. And then when I was 21, and then I was going to McGill University and I was studying humanistic studies. But then I realized I wanted to become an illustrator because I thought,
Okay.
like, at the time it paid really well.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know, or what is it? What I'm studying in university isn't really, serving these purposes of becoming an illustrator. So I left McGill and then I concentrated full time on painting and developing my skills as an artist. So
Okay.
my style started to develop a little bit, like there was a new, like a background in the imagery now. And then I was still working in watercolor. And then eventually I started working with acrylic painting. So I did a workshop in acrylic, which my painting was a disaster. Like at first I didn't know how to control the paint because it dries fast
Yeah.
and I can't, you can't blend, and you can blend, but like you can't like do work it the same way as watercolor because I had learned watercolor my whole life growing up.
Yeah.
So then eventually I got the hang of acrylic painting and then I got a studio in Montreal and I started getting some contracts in illustration because I built up a portfolio and then I went to ad agencies and it was really difficult to
And
do.
it should be really
Anyways,
different back then.
it was really
Like,
different. I mean, there was no internet, right? We didn't have
yeah.
cell phones, we didn't have
Yes.
emails. It
Yeah.
was totally different. Like if
So
you
were you
wanted
not
your
scared?
Was I scared?
Yeah. How scared were you?
No, no, because it's you start off with what you have and then you just adapt. I think that we're really adaptable. The human animal is a very adaptable thing. And you just make do with what you have. So I would like I would have photographs professionally made with slides, like little 35 millimeter slides, and then I would print that out on photographic paper and I would put it in a portfolio book with pages that flip
Yeah.
over. And I would go
Right.
through the phone book and look up ad agencies. Like I'd asked people that studied in school in illustration, what are the ad agencies that I should
Big.
contact and, stuff like that. So you can do it.
Okay, I have a question on this. At that point, did you at any point feel that you did not come from, let's say, even though you had all these years of learning alternatively, but not art school per se, uh, did any point of time held you like that held you back, or the feeling of imposter, or you know?
I think the thing that held me back is I did not learn how to present my work. So there were little
Okay.
technical issues. So
Yeah,
like I had
that's
no
that's
idea.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, how you present your work, in a portfolio or like because they do teach you that, but they don't teach you the business side in,
Yeah.
illustration and design and stuff, and nobody taught me that either, so I was just going about it, like, the only way that I knew how, and I think it's the only way, like, even today, I would still do the same thing. It's just that I would talk to people that did go to school in illustration and they would give me little tips and tricks that I was missing, like I would show them what I had and they would say, "Oh no, you should put like a nice frame around it, a paper frame around your photograph and clean it up a little bit." And, or like how to present, when I did an actual illustration, there is a way to present it properly when you give it to the client, and I didn't know how to do that either. So eventually, somebody linked me up with an agent, an illustration agent, and then she was helpful in showing. And then she introduced me to some artists that she was representing, and then we all kind of got to know each other, and that's when things really started to take off. And then I started getting more and more work. And I didn't stay with her for very long. I think I stayed with her for a couple of years, and
Okay.
then I was on my own after that, and then I got a contract with the Cirque du Soleil to do the poster image of Dralion, back in 1999, and then after that, I got lots of phone calls. People were looking for me instead of me looking
Wow.
for
It is.
jobs,
Yeah, this is
so
something that every artist dreams of because
yeah,
it's not easy. It's not easy to get started, like you said. E- Art school or no art school, I think a lot of artists struggle with finding how to move forward. What's next? How to do this? And like I think it's such a it's such a bleak boundary because let's say we keep asking our community and people within our community, we keep asking ourselves different questions, like let's say someone reached out on a collaboration for, let's say, mm, rugs and carpets, and sometimes it's a book deal, or sometimes like there are so many things that keep coming that are different and fresh and new that nobody knows how to move forward, even no matter what stage of your career you are in, and especially as
yeah,
someone who's just entering, you're not so confident, you don't want to mess up. um, I think there's also this fear of not being able to fit in, and um, I don't know. I mean, there's so much confusion and non-standardization that it is very hard to navigate on how to move forward, and we are all trying to figure it out. And then very few are able to reach a point where they feel like, okay, uh, they have put themselves out there where the world knows them now, and the world can come to them. And it's not an
yeah.
easy path.
I mean, I still have to put myself out there, like,
Yeah,
because
absolutely. But maybe
yeah.
differently.
And I guess a bit differently, like my career, because things got really moving, and I was in a gallery in Montreal that eventually closed.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then I was in another gallery that eventually closed. Like so, I would always have to start
Yeah.
over and look for something new, and then like
Yeah.
trying to do the same thing in the United States, and the galleries would close, and then I would be like, no way, this is
I love this point because this is something that very few people actually have spoken about on the podcast. The other side, uh, which is something like this, the closing of the galleries, because this is also one of the realities of the world that we're living in. There are several businesses that open every day, and a lot of businesses close. And when you feel like, I think we all come with this idea that we're going to arrive at one point, and then it's only like this, versus our life can be, it's like a roller
it's a
coaster of
roller
ups and
coaster.
downs.
It's up and
Yeah,
down. It's up and
yeah.
down. Like the gallery that I was with when I first started in Montreal, eventually they got mad at me because I did an exhibition with the Cirque du Soleil while I was with them, and they didn't want me to do it, but they never told me. They didn't communicate anything to me. And the exhibition that I did at the Cirque du Soleil was not a competing exhibition. It was all
Yeah.
experimental work. It was like photography work. And I painted on the photographs. So it was very different from my normal traditional painting that I did. And they didn't invite any of my collectors or clients, and then they blacklisted me.
This is like every artist's nightmare. Like,
Yeah,
not,
it's a total nightmare.
yes, tell me more about it.
So I was blacklisted, and they started telling people I was a difficult artist, and they didn't want to work with me. And then I'm not sure exactly what they were saying, but they were like trying to just strip away my reputation, and it was happening. It was working, like in Montreal, but I wasn't concentrating on Montreal. I was sort of a few steps ahead of them. And then eventually, like the Cirque du Soleil was sort of a good ally of mine, and then I would get contracts, to paint an art car, or like, and then a
Yeah, I
second
saw
art
that.
car, like
You
Taiwan
did
and
Taiwan.
stuff. Yeah, but like, and then there was a woman that used to work in the gallery that got together with me a few years later, and then she said, "We're going to have supper and I'm going to explain everything to you." And she told me, she said, "They're trying to destroy you, like they're trying to ruin you every which way, mentally, morally, economically, like in every way. They just want to ruin you because they can't control you." So this is
Yeah,
very unusual for a gallery to do with an artist. Eventually the gallery closed down, which I'm very glad of. But
yeah,
it's a real rarity in the art world, I think, to have someone behave that way with you, because I didn't really do anything.
yeah.
So
I think it's also the idea. I think, especially back then, I think the narrative has been changing and is on the way to change a lot more now, where, um, you know, where artists were actually the source of the funnel, where if there are no artists, there's no work for galleries to sell, there is no work for museums to show, there's no culture, there's no history, there's literally nothing if artists stop making the work. But at that
yeah,
point, a lot of artists didn't feel that power enough. And even today, it's
yeah,
not like I know a lot of us do not still feel, but we, especially I think after COVID, we've realized the value artists bring on the table, no matter if it's visual artists, if it's singers, authors, writers, like how much value are we bringing on the table? And if we are the source of the funnel, if we are not there, the value that we bring, nobody else can ever bring. And a lot of, I think, what did you think at that point? Like a lot of artists come in and they think about like they have to um, it's like a relationship where at the gallery or the commercial aspect, whoever your agent is on the top of the funnel and the artist on the second level. A lot of artists come from that ideology, have come for a long time. It's changing now. Did you think like that, or how was your input?
well, at first I because this gallery sold a lot of work. Like in the year before I did the exhibition at the Cirque du Soleil that they were unhappy about, they did an exhibition with me, a solo exhibition, and they must have sold in like the span of a couple weeks about $250,000 of paintings,
Wow.
right? So the show did really, really
Yeah.
well.
Wow.
So normally you would feel confident, you would feel like
Yeah.
I'm a good asset to this gallery. They're gonna, it's not easy to sell art. But the thing is this gallery owner was not using the gallery as his main source of income. He was
Yeah.
mostly doing business in real estate, and the gallery was like a sort of a hobby for
Yeah.
him. So, and then I don't know, I don't understand. Like I remember there was a gallery in New York that they were connected with, that they got me to hang out with the owner of the gallery, of the New York gallery, who was visiting Montreal. And then eventually I stayed friends with this guy. And then he told me, he said, "Yeah, it's really weird the way this Montreal gallery does business. Like, they treat their artists like garbage, but then they treat foreign artists, like international artists, like superstars.
Wow.
So they didn't have any respect for the local artists, and they were
Yeah.
just trying to bring in like, ex like outsider artists or whatever, that were not part of the city scene or stuff like that. So I mean, the way I felt, like it had at first I didn't realize what was going on. Like at first I just sort of thought my life was getting really strange, and like you go through phases in life where everything is
Yeah.
kind of weird and stuff. But then eventually it started to have like a huge effect on my self-esteem, my
Yeah.
as an artist. And I was doubting the quality of my work. Like, I didn't think it was good enough to approach a gallery in Los Angeles or New York or whatever. Like, I was like, oh, it's not ready yet and stuff like that. So it did have like a negative impact on me for sure. I mean, it was like a really destructive project on their side, what they were trying to do, and it was working. Like eventually it started working. Like the art card that I did in Taiwan, and it
Yeah.
started to bleed into the Cirque du Soleil, which was like the last place that I thought would be affected by all of this negativity in the city, because the Montreal, the headquarters of the Cirque du Soleil is in Montreal.
Okay.
So when I got contacted for the art car in Taiwan, the PR company contacted the Cirque du Soleil at first and said, "We want Heidi Taifair to come and paint a car for us in Taiwan." And they just said she's not interested.
Oh
And
my goodness.
luckily, yeah, the
They
PR
reached out to you.
company tried to contact me on Facebook, and at first I thought it was a joke because the girl who contacted me, her profile picture was doing this, and I was like, "This is a joke," you know? So I
Yeah.
didn't believe her at first, and she was asking me for my passport number because they wanted to buy me my
And
ticket to
well,
fly
and were
out.
you not scared? Like, did you have like at that point, like today, if
Well,
someone
I
will
just
be picking
I
up
was,
this?
like, not answering her, and then she phoned me, and then she
Okay.
finally said, "Infinity really needs you to come and paint this car," and then I said, "Wait a minute, this is with Infinity, you mean?" And then she said, "Yes, Infinity needs you to paint another art car." So then I was like, and then I believed
Yes.
her, and then
Yeah.
it all made sense, and, I just was like, anyway, so the whole thing was an amazing project in the end. But I was like, and then she asked me when I got to Taiwan, she said, "Why did you not want to work on the project?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "What are you talking about?" "Yes, I did." And she said, "The Cirque du Soleil told us that you were not interested." So somehow something had, like, my reputation was bad enough in Montreal that it finally made its way into the Cirque du Soleil, which was the last place that was like
Beautiful.
my safety and my refuge.
How
Anyway,
did you,
so
how do you think has positively today? I mean, it's been how many years about this?
oh, that was like 10 years ago that it
10 years
ended.
ago.
I guess all the worst of it. Maybe 12 years, 10
12.
years, 12 years ago
Still a
that it
good
kind of
time.
ended.
And you've come a
Yeah,
long
but
way.
it takes, like, what happened is that I got like really discouraged and tapped out. By 2014, I didn't want to paint anymore. I didn't want to hear about art anymore, but I had a show coming up, so I had to keep painting.
Yeah.
And I was in a new gallery in Montreal, and I was working with a woman that I used to be part of the first gallery that closed in Montreal, the one that blacklisted me.
Yeah.
Anyway, she used to work there, and then she's
And
working
then
in
she
this new
started.
gallery. Yeah, but
Oh,
she was
and
great, and she sold most of my work, like all that $250,000 of paintings that sold. She's the one who sold it all. Anyway, so she's in this new gallery in Montreal, and then I'm working with her on a show coming up. But I was like, I was really, really tapped out, like burnt out. Like I ended up going to Cuba on a trip for a week. I had to take a break in the middle of my production. I was like, I have to get out of the studio. I don't want to be here. It's like being in a prison. And then I was teaching art at that time. I taught art for like 7 years,
okay.
starting in like 2012.
Hmm.
And one of my students had her degree in psychology, specializing in burnout. And then
Oh,
I was talking
wow.
to her.
That's too specific.
Yeah. And then she goes, "You're in a burnout." And I was like, "You're kidding me. I'm a burnout?" Like, that's so pathetic, right? But
Yeah.
she said, "Yeah." And then we went over everything. And a lot of it had to do with this blacklisting that I went
You were
through,
emotionally drained.
yeah, emotionally drained. So and it takes a long time to come back. If you do
Yeah.
go through a burnout and you're
Yes.
totally like against everything that you were doing before, like,
And this is quite common now. I think a lot of artists, especially I think in the age of digital, social media and oversharing and like the constant compulsion we all feel that we have to keep doing things, and if you don't, you feel behind. And like, I think it's only going worse than it was ever before because of the
yeah,
positive thing is we all feel connected, we have a lot of support, but also like we always feel competed even when we don't want to, because we all come with our own baggage of fears. Like, sometimes the fear is that I feel like, okay, um, I've had terrible past 2 years. I've had a lot of loss in my life, and even though, like, no matter how hard I fought it, no matter how hard I tried, it's been a very, very hard time for me to feel like, to really like get back into a flow state as an artist, to feel myself back
Yeah.
again. And I have been feeling like so guilty so much of time when I see other people, you know, doing great things and projects and something. And back of the mind, I know I've been doing my best. I've been doing a lot of work that I've really pushed myself. But I also know that everything that's happened has uh, slowed me down, and I started feeling I so guilty about it that I didn't. I always felt like I wasn't doing enough, even when I was doing too much for my own self. And this really like this really took a toll on me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, like, I well, like, I feel certain pressures. I see some people that are doing really, really well in art, or I think they're doing really well, but I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I know that they're very good at marketing themselves. So they're doing regular posts on social media. I actually get kind of bored with social media. Like,
Yeah.
get on it, and then I scroll a little bit, and then I'm sort of looking for something that's going to spark an idea or give me some inspiration and stuff. And then I leave it, and then I go and read the news, or I'll go for a walk or something. But I have to say, like, there's like I don't know when I mean it doesn't like it doesn't stop. The whole machine continues. That even if you take a break, I think
Yeah.
that like I find that I get approached still. Like I took a break from painting. I
How long
slowed
was
down.
that?
Back in 2017 maybe, I got married, and then I took a break from painting, and then in 2018 my father, who has Alzheimer's, came and lived with us, my husband and I was the one that was taking care of him. So I could hardly do any painting work. But then I got approached, and I felt like I was dormant for a couple of years. Like there was nothing really going on. I was doing some Instagram posts, but like nothing major, And I was
Yeah,
doing
I
like a
like.
little bit of painting.
Yeah.
But I got approached by a major American gallery about my work, and they liked a certain style that I did. But eventually, and then they said, "Can we see what you've been working on in the last couple of years?" And I was like, "Oh no, I
Oh
don't have
my God.
anything, or hardly anything." And then I realized, anyway. So the long story short of it is, I paint too slowly for them because they have nine. It's a chain of galleries. It's Martin Lawrence Galleries in the United States. They have 9 galleries across the United States, and they need you to provide a lot of work for them. So I
Oh
wasn't
wow.
able to produce fast enough. And then, they decided, like, we're
Yeah.
not going to take you on and stuff.
Yeah.
But what it made me realize is that even if it seems like nothing is happening, if you
It's still.
plant the seeds, you never know. And then
Yeah.
you continue, and you just keep on going. Even if you go at a slow
Yeah.
pace, if
Yeah.
you plant the seeds, then something will come up.
Yeah. I think it also comes from a place of fear. And I think I felt this so many times. Like, we feel that something's not happening, and I think it's like a loop sometimes, especially when people are just trying to mark their way, find out a path, and it's like something's not happening, and the when you're forced to slow down, when you're forced to stop or take a pause, uh, the fear is that you know even though we say that it's happening, but it's very hard for someone to believe in that position at that point of time, because when someone's already working hard and they do not see results, and our association, even in today's time, like the hustle that you need to keep, if you need to make something happen, you need to continuously work, or you have to be in the studio, or you have to continually market yourself and stuff like that. And when you feel like, okay, I won't be doing any of those things, and should I still be expecting something to happen to me? I mean, it's truly not that easy. I mean, it's truly not
It's not that easy, yeah.
until it happens to someone.
I mean, like, because when I first started, like the way I first started exhibiting outside of Montreal was I went to art magazines and I looked at the back of the magazine, and there would be advertisements by galleries for exhibition contests, and I would submit work to
Yes,
be part of the
yes.
contest, and sometimes I was included in an
Oh,
exhibition. So then my work would go to California, or it would go to
yeah,
Washington, or wherever. It would just sort of go all over the place. Um, and this is a way that I was able to build a resume and get started. And that, even if the painting didn't sell, at least just getting accepted into a contest as a group, part of a group show or whatever, was it was like a reinforcement, like an encouraging acknowledgement that my work was okay, like I was in the right direction. And I would say that now, like maybe what artists need to do is, if they want to slow down, like there are resources that they can go to. They have to trying to think, like, because today I wouldn't really know where to go. Like the one person is a that's a really good resource is with Beautiful Bazaar magazine, and
yes,
she's
love
an
them.
writer, and she
Eliza.
posts.
Oh, yes,
Eliza, she's amazing.
yes.
Yeah, you
I
know her.
love
She's always
her. I can't wait to have her on
she's
the podcast.
amazing.
I love her.
Yeah, you got to get her on the podcast.
Yes,
But
very soon.
she's always
That's happening.
posting. Anyway, and so she'll post, like, galleries that accept submissions and stuff, which is really important for artists to know about. So those are really, really valuable resources that someone can go to and get started with. And I think that I don't think things have changed that much since I first started with art, in terms of getting accepted. I think that the strategy of showing in group shows to get like the ball rolling, and then you never know if your art has a certain thing about it that has like a mass appeal, then it can spark interest, and then it can really take off. But most of the time, art is a very slow moving machine. The wheel turns very slowly.
Yeah, and that's true. And I think sometimes when what I feel now, I feel I'm seeing and working on both ends as an artist who submits, and also some running an organization and a project that actually creates opportunities for artists. And I think I've been seeing both ways, like, when so many artists who submit to our call for arts for the magazine, and for the shows and everything, and we have a new guest curator every time. And there's my own circle, my own connections, and people who we collaborate with. And even though, if let's say, if someone's even not been accepted into whatever application they have um, applied for, there's so many times that someone the guest curator takes notice of their work and reshares, and mm, another magazine post, or like the visibility on the back of the funnel that they don't know about yet, they get to their work,
Yeah,
is sometimes it's just good. And it's insane.
yeah,
I mean, I never understood unless I got into the system and experienced it for myself. and and it takes time, I think. When you keep submitting, your work starts to grow. um, People start to make notice, and
yeah,
opportunities sometimes may not be the best fit at that point, but they start, you know you park someone. I remember, like, I know so many people, be it a curator or be an artist that I really like, and maybe, let's say, if I can't buy it at this point, or if this collaboration can't happen today, but I know it's always parked in back of my head, and when the time is right, I will know that I can make this happen.
yeah, yeah. It percolates. Like
Yeah.
there's sort of, like, timing is important too.
Yeah, I have another question. I was going through your Instagram, and a question that I feel like a lot of artists would also be interested in, and your own outlook. So I remember this Instagram post that you had, which said that, this was a really complex work, which was of a cat with robotics and like, it's one of your most detailed works I've seen in your recent read. And you shared like how you had shown this work to someone, some gallery owner in New York, and how they'd given you feedback of maybe going a little bit slow on the detailing, and how you over the years eventually and naturally have found
Oh,
that path.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, so
I
my
remember
question
that.
is, you
Yeah.
remember that? So I have a couple of questions. First questions, a lot of times feedback is very hard to interpret as an artist. Sometimes it's what people want out of us, may not be in line with what we want out of ourselves or with our own work. So, how do you, especially in your own experience so far, how do you have managed that feedback to, okay, this is something that could be helpful for you or feels authentic to you, may not be, um, may not feel right for someone else commercially or to the galleries or anyone you're working with, versus something that may help you sell better, get more galleries or stuff like that, but does not feel authentic to you? How have you coped up with that?
I think that I always did what felt authentic to me. I also went to a gallery in New York and presented my work, and they just said it looks like cartoon work. And I was like,
Mind
"Oh, I can't believe you're
you.
telling me that." It was like so disappointing. And then, like, maybe I think it was like maybe 10 years later, they started showing work that was kind of cartoony with different artists and like lowbrow art and pop art and, like pop surrealism and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I was just like, I was like I came in too soon, and then, but
Yeah,
it was, and then I found out that it was not the right gallery to be with because, like,
right.
just their business practices were a little sketchy and stuff. So it turned out that it was a good thing that I didn't go with them. But, but let's say, if somebody gives you feedback on your work, you're always it's I think it's important to get feedback on work because, like, sometimes another person's point of view can help, channel, the direction of your work. But at the same time, you do have to stay true to yourself. But, like, the person that told me to simplify my work didn't like detail. That was not part of his aesthetic, right? Like, he just really believed that art should be, like, as simple as it could be. He was very minimalist and everything, and so I did a series. I did a bunch of cherubs, like these little, valentines, and I simplified, some of the valentines and just as an experiment, and then I worked on a theme, and I developed the theme and saw how that went and everything. So, I took what he said and then I sort of I incorporated it into my own vision and voice of things. But I stayed true to what I wanted to do. And I think it's really important to stay true to what you want to do. It's just like the way I was painting frogs as a kid, or like as a teenager in my art class. I stayed true and kept painting robots, even though my art teacher was teaching us how to paint like apples and mushrooms and stuff like that. And I don't know. I mean, it's important to get constructive criticism because it can really help
Yeah.
to improve your work. Um, but it's important also to not let that discourage you in any way. Like, if it's important not to be overly sensitive to it. Like, if you say, "Oh, no, I do too much detail. All my work is terrible then because I do too much detail and stuff." That is not a good way to shoulder it, but,
What do you ask yourself? Is there any question or something that you ask yourself when you're looking at or getting a feedback? Like, how do you cipher through? Like, okay, I can use this, spark this, or
yeah, like, you wanna see who the person is who's giving you that opinion, like, who is this person to tell me, do they have, like, good taste in art? Is their taste in art, because it's so subjective, right? You might wanna, like,
yeah,
say, "Do I admire this person for
yeah, you feel
their
aligned with that
talent?"
person or not?
Yeah, like, do I respect this person's aesthetic? Like, if you ask an artist who's a successful artist and you love their work and you say, "Can you critique what I do?" And they give you a critique, I mean, if somebody like to me, I think if somebody was going to really hammer away at your work and find all negativity and be discouraging, then I would say this person's a jerk, because like a person, I think, who really has like sincerity to them should have a certain respect for the other artists that they're critiquing, and they should not want to
Yeah,
crush their, like,
yeah,
when you give a
yeah. I think
critique,
there's
you
a
don't want to
difference.
crush. Yeah, you don't want to discourage them or anything. You want to, so like, a way of filtering out. I mean, this person that gave me feedback about detail, I respected him as a gallery owner and a dealer, and I liked the
Yeah.
artwork that he was showing in the gallery. But then, like, eventually, I was just going, it's not me. Like, I want to put more detail in. Like, I have too much mental energy and a desire to make it more detailed.
And I think also there's something like, even though that feedback could have been right, and I think something that I strongly feel is sometimes there are some things that I need to get out of my own system. Like I have seen a lot of patterns in my own practice and my own creative patterns that I know that even though, I mean, I could go less, but I really need to push myself, go to like the point where I feel like, okay, how detailed can I go? And then feel like, okay, I've done this, seen how it feels like, and now I can go back to like, whatever that is. Like sometimes you need to do things because you want to see it for yourself
Yeah,
and put
you want
it
to
through
prove
your
something to
system.
yourself.
Yeah. And just experiment because there's a hunch, like, okay, I want to see like how I would make like a super detailed or this idea, even though I know probably I wouldn't work on this concept for a very long time, but I need to work on this concept because I need to get it out of my system. There's no other way I would do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I tend to sort of, when somebody brings something up, I tend to take a lot of time to sort of analyze every side of the issue, and so it's like I slow it down, I mean, like, I'll it's like I'll listen, and then someone can be speaking quickly, and then I'm like, "Yes, yes, okay, okay." But I like it when I can slow down and just sink my teeth into something that they said and really contemplate it, and I think that I see that in my art. Like, that's what I'm doing with the paintings, is I'm like, contemplating a thought or a bunch of ideas that I'm thinking about, and like in every direction and every angle and stuff like that. And I don't want to stop that, but like my work is simplifying as I get older, and it could just be a function of my practical, like, physical
Yeah,
circumstances. Like, I don't have the same studio space, and I
yeah,
have a lot of distractions now that are taking
yeah.
my focus away.
But also, like, if you've got mature with your own thoughts, maybe also I think when we're younger, we have a lot more
Yeah.
questions and a lot less calm. And, you get mature, your thinking gets mature, and you accept things and you let go of some. I think that also makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, like, I'm a lot more zen now also than I was when I was younger. Like, I had a lot of hyper energy before, and then now I feel like I'm a lot more chill. So, and then it finds its way into the work.
I love that. I love that. I can't believe we've already spoken for an hour,
Oh,
which flew
wow.
by quickly. But I
Yeah,
have a rapid fire for you. So this
okay.
season's first rapid fire. I always love doing rapid fires. It's so fun because you get to know more about someone in a lot quicker way, and it's a lot more fun. So are you
Okay.
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. We'll start with this is a new section I've not done in the past two seasons. I'm very excited, which is this or that. Okay. So, creativity or perfectionism, which is more important to you in your art practice?
Oh, creativity.
You love creativity. Are you a morning person or a late night person? What do you prefer the most for creating?
Now I'm, morning. I used to be late night, and now I'm a morning person.
I think this has something to do with age.
It might be. I think it has to do with, I think it's just my social surroundings, like, because I'm
Yeah,
married now,
yeah,
before, when it's a lifestyle, right? When you're an artist. So
yeah,
when I was single, living alone, I was a night person. Now I'm
yeah.
a morning.
Love that. Okay. Music or silence? What atmosphere do you need the best, like to create your work?
I like music.
Okay, so you put a lot of music while you're creating?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Love
put
that.
music on while I'm painting.
Okay. Inspiration or hard work? Which is the key to success in your career?
Hard work.
Hard work. I love that. Okay. What inspired you to become an artist?
Oh, wow. Okay, I was a waitress when I was 21 years old up in the Yukon in the north of
Oh wow.
Canada. Yeah, and the head waitress in the restaurant was like 15 years older than me, and I think she felt like I was kind of encroaching on her territory or something. She didn't like me. So she gave me a really, really hard time, and I couldn't understand why. So I quit. And then I went to the mountains and I went hiking for a week up on the ridges of the mountains way up in the Yukon. And then I was like thinking and thinking, and then I decided I don't want to work for anybody, and I have a talent, and I'm going to try and develop my talent and become an artist instead of getting a
Wow.
regular. Yeah,
Love that
that was the
story.
moment. That was, yeah, very definitive moment
Yeah.
that made me
Yeah.
decide to be an artist.
Okay. What is the most important lesson you've learned throughout your own career as an artist?
Um, don't doubt yourself. Don't let your inner critic destroy you, because often that can happen. Like, it's important to have an inner critic so that you're always trying to better yourself, but that inner critic can get so bad and so strong that it ruins everything else, and it blocks all your creativity, and it blocks your productivity, and it blocks your ambition, and it overwhelms you.
I love that. Okay. What advice would you give to other women artists who are trying to, make their own career into the arts?
Oh, wow. I mean, the only advice I could give is the path that I took, which was very lucky, I think. So I don't know if this is like the same kind of like if it's practical advice, because my path was I was very lucky that I didn't have to pay rent for the first few years when I was living when I after I quit McGill. Um, and I was focusing on building a career in illustration, so I didn't have to get a job, and I could. I mean, I had like money that I saved up, and I was just living off of that. And then I started making money in illustration. I started getting contracts, but I got a side source of income. So I bought an apartment building that was like
Wow.
3 apartments. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like 20 years ago, and the prices were super low in Montreal back then. So I was able to afford a triplex, and then I got rent from that. So I got passive income
That's
from that.
very smart.
Yeah, and that permitted me to, it still does. I still have the building. So it still lets me paint and not have to worry about making sales. And if I do make a sale, then it's a lot more beneficial. I actually never had children, and I don't think I could
Yeah,
have
I've
done
seen
everything that I
that.
did. Yeah, like if I had kids, I would never have been able to do everything. I mean, it was just like I didn't meet the right person, and I didn't want to be a single mother, so I
Yeah.
never had kids in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, but I do know one artist. Her name in Montreal. She started painting because she saw my work. She's about 10 years younger than me. She saw
Okay.
my work. Her name is Sandra Chevrier. She's really, really amazing at doing portraiture, and she's a single mother, so she was doing work,
Wow.
like painting, and she was just trying to like make her way along, and it wasn't really going that far for her.
Yeah.
And then eventually she hit on a style that was really well received, and it was like
That's
relatively
amazing.
quick for her to paint, so she was
Yeah.
able to produce a lot, and it was popular, and it was really well received, and then it just
Yeah.
took off. Within like 5 years, she went from like nothing to showing in museums around the world.
Wow.
And she's a single mother, so she has
Yeah,
a
I think we
child.
all have our own paths and we what we want if you really want to make it work. I know Brandy, who's a lovely friend, also a Canadian artist, who's a mother to three children and she does everything so beautifully and I think so much more than a lot of us. And you know,
Some
we
people
just
can do it. I know.
yeah,
Like I'm amazed. I'm always
yeah,
amazed, and like I always feel like they deserve huge
yeah.
congratulations for that.
Okay, this is something for you. How has technology helped or hindered your creative process?
Well, technology, I think actually technology has only helped my creative process because it's helped, researching reference images for my works. Like, I can go on, I can Google search anything. Like, if I want to look at a Formula One engine, um, whatever, I can Google it and then I get like, whereas before I used to have to go and find magazines and I'd have to look
Yeah,
for the right picture and like maybe
right.
it wasn't there and stuff like that. So that's helped a lot. And then it helps, like I use Photoshop to make like a construction of
Right.
sometimes, collage construction, and then I can use
Yeah.
that as my reference
Reference.
base of painting.
Yeah.
Um, and like social media and then like websites and stuff, like that's all stuff that came up after I started out in the arts. And that's
Yeah.
helped a lot
Yeah.
too. So I don't see that it hindered in any way, really.
So it really helped you.
Yeah, it really helped me.
Okay. Can you share one of your most memorable experience as an artist? It could be anything. I love this question. Been there for all seasons. Anything that you feel has been like one favorite memory, any experience that you feel you've had as
As
an
an
artist that you
artist,
feel, yeah.
well, the very first thought that comes to mind, I went to Rajasthan
Oh,
when I was,
oh
yeah,
wow.
when I was in 2004. This is a funny story, but it's not funny. It was a dangerous situation that happened, but it's kind of funny. So I was in Rajasthan. I went to Jaisalmer, which is right
Okay,
near
yes,
Pakistan, like on the border
yes,
of Pakistan.
yeah.
It's this gorgeous city, sandstone
The Blue
city and
City.
everything. It's not blue. I think that's Jaipur or Jodhpur.
Yeah.
It's either Jaipur or Jodhpur. I can't remember the
No,
blue
no.
city.
So
But it's
Pink City.
Jaisalmer.
Jaipur is Pink City and Jaisalmer is
Okay,
the Blue City of
Jodhpur.
India.
Oh, I see.
Jaipur.
Okay, this was
Yeah.
just Jaisalmer. So
Yeah.
Jaisalmer
Jaisalmer
is
is,
like all.
yeah.
Oh, it's incredible as a city.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went on a camel safari into the desert, and on the second day, there was some people that had their camels. Like camels are really nasty creatures that bite each other all the time. So they told us keep them away from each other. Like don't let them get too close to another camel. But somebody got really close to my camel and behind me, and it bit my camel on the
My
tail. And the
goodness.
camel, they bite each other until they bleed. Like they bite so hard that, so my camel
Goodness.
started to jump like a rodeo horse, and then it threw me off, and I did like a big cartwheel in the air, and then I landed on this
Goodness.
hard packed desert floor, and
Yeah.
I broke my arm. Like my arm was
Oh
totally
my
corkscrewed,
goodness.
twisted. Yeah, and I sprained my ankle on my right side and everything. So this inspired the exhibition that I did at the Cirque du Soleil in 2005, which is what got me blacklisted from that gallery. And
Oh goodness.
anyways, yeah, yeah. But the exhibition was about Tibetan Buddhism. So at first, what I did is I looked at myself and I was like, wow, I am like totally skinny, emaciated because I lost a lot of weight in a few days. Like I think it was the stress and the anxiety. Like it took about 38 hours for me to get my arm repaired after that. Like we had to take a flight. We had to take a jeep for 8 hours to Jodhpur, and then we took a flight to Delhi, and then I went
Yeah.
to the Indraprastha Apollo Hospital in Delhi, which is like a
Oh my
private
goodness.
hospital. It was like the
Yeah.
five-star experience for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I took photos of myself with my broken arm, and then I painted over these
Goodness.
photos, and I turned them into like a photo roman, like a book sort of thing, and then I
Oh my
exhibited
goodness.
this at the Cirque du Soleil. Yeah.
Uh, One last question before we go. Okay. What has been your biggest challenge you think you faced in your own artistic journey? And how do you think have you overcome it?
Okay, so I would say that's confidence in my work. Like I began with a lot of confidence in my work, and then I started criticizing it too much. Like when I talked about the inner critic, you don't want to let the inner critic destroy yourself and stuff. I was like trying to improve my work all the time, and I would say, no, it's not good enough, it's not good enough, not good enough. But I really believe that our attitude and our intention manifests itself in the outer form. So I'm trying to be a lot more accepting of my work as I do it and not be too critical of it, because I think that when you're too critical of it, other people are critical of it, and then
Yeah,
it
I
just
think you're right.
finds its way into the universe, and then it
Yeah,
comes back as something negative.
yeah. Thank you so much, Heidi. This was amazing. I can't believe we've been speaking for so long. Before I let you go, um, if you have anything upcoming that you'd like our listeners to know about, how they can support you, find you, if there's a link, an account, please share.
Let's see. Well, I have there's a show coming up. Well, right now I'm in a group show at Modern Eating Gallery in San Francisco. There's a show coming up for the Year of the Rabbit, and I have a rabbit. I just have one painting that'll be in the show.
Okay.
Um, and then I have a two-person show that is scheduled for May this year in Montreal with Jeannot Lapin Gallery. So I'm with them with her right now, and
Okay.
I don't have a link. Like I'm going to start posting on Instagram, but
Whenever you
and I
have, just let us know
yeah, for
and we'll share
sure.
it then.
Okay, great. Yeah.
And where can we find you on Instagram?
Okay, just Heidi Tyfair.
Heidi Taifel. I'm going to link everything in the show notes, including we'll be, converting a few of highlights of this as questions in the on our website, and we'll include links
Excellent.
to Heidi's work, Instagram, website, and some of her images. So make sure if you want to quickly glance through all of this, you can go on our website and find the link to this episode. Thank you so much, Heidi. I had a lot of fun speaking to you. It was so nice. And thank you for your honesty. And I hope to see you soon again.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks. Bye.
You